of y'all believe things are going to get better? Let me hear you shout, things are going to get better. If you believe it, clap your hands and bless God. Come on. Look at somebody and tell them I'm going to make it. Come on, clap your hands. So many times I laid awake at night, wondering about tomorrow. Will it be all right? Will it be sunshine? Will it be rain? Greetings, everyone. Will it be heartache? Will it be pain? I don't know what you're going through. This is a message to encourage you. You gotta spread your shoulders. They cry your teeth. No room for doubt. Say, God, go ahead. You're more than a conqueror. You're on the win. Things are gonna get better. Greetings, everybody. Welcome. As you come in, please share and tag. Come on, somebody help me say that. He never said your way would be easy. That you would Peace and blessings, love. Grand rising, rich rising. If you just call, he'll be right there to help you through it all. You gotta scratch your shoulder, then try to get teeth. Oh, yes. Say goodbye to your pain. You're more than a conqueror. You were born to win. You were born to win. Say it. You know you're gonna make it. Declare that. Affirm that in your atmosphere. I know I'm going to make it. No, I'm going to make it. Greetings. As you come in, please like, share, comment, tag a friend, neighbor. Thank you, let them cook. I love my head coverings. Know that things are going to get better. That's right. We got to choose to make the right decisions to make our reality manifest. Things are going to get better. You got to believe. You got to affirm. You got to know. You got to declare that you are going to get better. That your life is going to get better. That everything about you is going to get better. You got to declare that. You got to know that. You got to speak that. Greetings, Marie. Oh yes, things are going to get better. Don't care what it looks like, it's going to get better. Why? Because we say so. The God in us say so. Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Wonderful. Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the Soul Awakening Sanctuary. Thank you, Marie. I love this. Yes, thank you so very much. Let me tell y'all something. I believe in getting up every day, whether you have somewhere to go or not, and be beautiful.
Get yourself together. If it's just for a walk outside. Yes! Whatever it is, make yourself feel beautiful and nice. No matter if it's just going to the mailbox, just going to the grocery store. Because it alters your mood. There was an old saying that we used to say that you dress to impress, but the way you dress reflects the way you feel. And a lot of times, when you look at how people dress, you can tell they don't feel that great. So, dress not to impress other people, to impress yourself. Dress according to your feeling, what you like. Not even what nobody else thinks about your dress and your color coordination. You make fashion. Let your dress code speak to your spirit, to who you are. A lot of times when we feel good about ourselves, the way we look, the way we dress, our output and our work changes. The way we interact with people, the way we feel about the day, everything changes. That's right. It's an amazing way to have a wonderful day by changing our outlook. You may feel like the world is coming to an end. You may feel like this is going to be a horrible day, but shift that mindset, get dressed, feel good, and begin to speak life, and you will see a change. So welcome, everyone, all you beautiful souls. Welcome to the Soul Awakening Sanctuary Movement Live Session. Today's message is a call to remembrance, a call to reclaiming, and a call to rising. Because our ancestors are not dead, they are alive in you. And it's time to unlock the power they left behind for us. So I hope you are ready to dig in deep today. Let's go a little deeper. The title of our conscious spiritual teaching and time together today, our talk, our discussion, our session today is Your Ancestors Are Not Dead. Reclaiming Ancestral Wisdom for Modern Power. Again, our topic today is Your Ancestors Are Not Dead. Reclaiming Ancestral Wisdom for Modern Power. That is our topic of our session today. So please tag a neighbor, tag a friend, repost, reshare, share, and share at least to 3 people. Everybody do that. Help us offset the algorithm so that people will see and it will get to somebody's FYP so they can hear the truth about themselves, that your ancestors are not dead, as organized, colonized religions have pushed and indoctrinated us with. Your ancestors aren't dead, and today we're reclaiming ancestral wisdom for modern power. Because we see a lot of things going on today, and people are becoming faint of heart. But I want to encourage, there's no need to get faint of heart. There's no need to get stressed and filled with anxiety. It's time to reclaim your ancestral wisdom for your modern power. We need power to overcome the obstacles we are facing, and religion is a useless tool to many melanated people, many people in general, because it's a hollow shell full of dogma and indoctrination that keeps you in a lullaby. It's a lullaby to keep you asleep, that you will not awaken and arise to your divine power within you. So today we're saying it's time to come home. If you were taught that your ancestors are dead, that when you're dead, you're done, that the dead don't know nothing. If you were indoctrinated like that, today is your day to unleash, get rid of that ideology and understand that it's time to come home so that you can become who you were authentically called to be, so that you can arise. Greetings. I call them the great seer, Darcel Andre. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right here. But I love you and I hope you're doing well. And so it's so good to see everybody. Please, everybody, as you come in the room, reshare, share the live so it can get on the FYP. It can shake up this algorithm. Share at least to 3 people, if not more. We want as many people as possible to get on this live to hear this teachings of truth, to resurrect the God within them, not the God and the sky daddies that they've been taught, the God within them, the power, the source that's in them, to help people really come into who they are. If you're new to this platform, I want you to know that you may see the title Chief Apostle, Apostle. I am not your colonized, indoctrinated spiritual leader or teacher. We take sacred scripture, the Bible, other sacred texts, and we look at it from a metaphysical perspective, the spiritual meaning. And yes, somebody asked a question about Ecclesiastes, the 9th chapter, the 5th verse. For the living know that they shall die, but the dead know not anything, neither have they any more a reward, for the memory of them is forgotten. Now, let's be clear. Remember, the Bible is a coded book. And unless you have the keys to unlock the code, you will still be locked out of the mysteries of the truth. Because many people have been in a chokehold because they have been taught to read sacred texts and these biblical literature in a literal sense. And when you begin to look at the Bible in a literal sense, oftentimes than not, if you'll be honest, you will find so many inconsistencies. The Bible is esoteric, metaphysical, allegory. That's it, niece. That it helps us to, it's all about you. Let's make that clear. It's all about you. Let's make that clear. It's all about you. Anytime you read anything in sacred text about any person's name, it's about you. It's about your spiritual journey and evolution here on this plane. It's to help you come to the knowledge of who you are and to ascend and enlighten yourself. So that's the first thing. So we got to understand that first. So it's not to be looked at in a literal sense. That's number one. And then, so if we break this scripture down, Ecclesiastes 9 and 5, I'm going to answer this question, then we're going to jump further into what we're talking about today. Everybody, please share this live. Share this live. Now, when we read Ecclesiastes 9 and 5, talks about, for the living know that they shall die, but the dead know not anything. Now, we know this cannot be speaking of a literal sense. How do we know that? Because when we go back further in the Hebrew Bible, we see what is classified as the story about the witch of Endor, which is that's incorrect. She was a necromancer, to be clear. But it says about the witch of Endor and Samuel, the prophet who was dead, and Saul, who was king. And Saul, who was king, who had put away everybody who was a witch or did sorcery or did magic or who did anything spiritual outside of the Israelites' way. And so, but he went to the witch of Endor, quote unquote, a necromancer, a woman who knew how to contact the spirits of the souls departed from this realm to the other side of the veil. And he went to her because he needed understanding. He wanted a message from the prophet who was dead about what was going to happen in his future. And he went to her and she conjured up the spirit of Samuel, the prophet Samuel. And the prophet said, and this is the thing to be clear on, because we're pointing out how we know Ecclesiastes 9 and 5 is not talking about literal sense. And I'm going to pull up this scripture so that you can see. Because I know a lot of people, they say, well, because my Bible thumpers, they be in the room. And so I just want to, so you can go read it because, it's in your Bible. It's in 1 Samuel, the 28th chapter. Thank you, Rhonda Armstrong. Welcome. And so Ecclesiastes chapter 28, and when you go down to it starts around verse number 9 or 7, and you can go and read down. And my dear, the biggest wit, no, it wasn't Elisha, it was Samuel. It's in 1 Samuel chapter 28. The prophet of Saul was Samuel. He was the one that anointed him. And so Saul wanted to find out what was his fate. And the woman, as she conjured the spirit, she told Saul who she saw and described him. And she asked him, who is this man? And Saul knew exactly who it was. It was the prophet Samuel. And he asked the prophet Samuel, who was deceased, who was gone on to the other side. People say the dead don't know nothing. Well, if the dead don't know nothing, how in the world would this woman was able to conjure up the spirit of the deceased? And the spirit of the deceased was able to give an answer to Saul about his demise. So that is one proof in the biblical text that shows you that Ecclesiastes 9 and 5 is esoteric, it's metaphysical, not literal. So for the living know that they should die. We all know that one day we're going to transition from this life to the next. But when it said the dead don't know anything, those who are spiritually dead don't know nothing. Those that have lived on this earth and gone on into the great beyond, moved into the realm of the ancestors, they do know what's going on here. Somebody in the Christian church said, well, I don't believe that can't be true. Well, when you go in the Greek scriptures commonly called the New Testament, it says we have so great a cloud of witnesses. What witnesses? Those, your ancestors that have gone on, they are your great cloud of witnesses. And they are watching what you're doing here on earth. Because remember, beloved, Before we came to this earthly realm through the birth canal of your mother, you already existed. You existed prior to coming to earth. And so once you leave this earthly realm, you will still exist. Why? Because this is flesh. This body is flesh. Dirt, clay. But you are not your body, your flesh. You are what is animating the flesh. That is who you truly are. Your soul, your spirit, your nefesh. That is what animates this human body. So we're gonna get to the next question. The question you have. I think we done gone way ahead, but I'm gonna answer the question since it came up. So it says, for the living know that they shall die. Those who are alive on this earthly realm know that one day we have to leave this earthly existence. But the dead knoweth nothing, neither have they reward anymore. Neither have they any more a reward, for the memory of them are forgotten. Now we know that's not talking about literal. Let me prove a point. Why we know it's not literal? Because guess what? When your ancestors die, when your loved ones pass away, you still remember them. So when it says the memory of them are forgotten, we don't forget our loved ones. I don't care. My mother, a blessed memory, she has been gone for about 10 years or so, over 10 years. Well over 10 years. But I don't forget her. I don't forget the things about her. I don't forget the types of perfume she used to wear, the things she used to do, the sayings and wisdom she used to say. So this is a proof that this is not talking about literal. They don't have any more earthly reward. Because remember, the rewards and all of that is here. People always talking about going to heaven to get your reward. That is taught by the colonizers. To get you to forget about your possession and what is belong to you here so they can steal it. That's why they taught about worrying about going to heaven and walking streets of gold so they can steal your gold right here. If we want to talk about the truth of the matter. And when people, another question that just came up in the chat, why do Christians call them familiar spirits, talking about your ancestors, the departed, the souls of the departed? Why do Christians call their loved ones familiar spirits, the ones who died? That confused. Because they don't have a true understanding of what familiar spirits is. Familiar spirits is something that mocks something that is not truly what it is. But your ancestors who passed on, you know what they look like, what they smelled like, their verbiage, their language, their lingo, and what they say. You would know. So that's nothing familiar about it. Familiar spirit. That is your ancestors speaking to you from the other side of the veil. A lot of times, this is where cognitive dissonance comes in, especially Christian cognitive dissonance. Christian cognitive dissonance comes in. When we have been indoctrinated one way, and we've been programmed to believe and view everything in one way. You know, every time we start teaching about certain stuff, honey, TikTok always starts something. But, where was I? But your ancestors speak to you from beyond the veil to give you guidance. They are still speaking with you. Why? Because they live within you. They live within you. And cognitive dissonance, yes, that's where we were. When we've been programmed and indoctrinated with these teachings, how to see the world and what to believe and what not to believe and what we are taught to be true and what's not true. Greetings, Zara. Welcome, dear. Hope you're doing well. And so, what happens with cognitive dissonance is when we have a truth that comes and confronts the programming that you have been programmed with, the indoctrination, the dogma that you believe to be true, now you have a cognitive dissonance because now you don't know. This truth comes and it negates what you've been taught and you have believed. And so now you're wrestling. You're wrestling with what you were taught and what is actually true. And so you try to reason and make all kind of little things to try to reason it away or try to make it true. Honey, if it's not true, it's just not true. And we have to come to the knowledge and understanding that many of the things we've been taught from childhood, our programming, is a lie. It's wrong. It's not true. It may have been well-intentioned, but it's just not true. And it's time for us to wake up to that fact and do the necessary work to unlearn the lies and rewire our brains for truth and empowerment. So again, peace, power, and divine light and divine awakening to all of you joining us today. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a returning soul in this community, welcome. Welcome to the Soul Awakening Sanctuary Movement virtual session together. Here is where we decolonize the mind, heal spirits, and awaken souls to their true power, one mind at a time. I am yours truly, Chief Apostle Veronica Yisrael, global spiritual teacher, guide, leader, high priestess, chief high priestess, and founder of the Soul Awakening Sanctuary Movement, and the host of the Sankofa Sessions podcast. And today, we're diving and continue to move deeper into a powerful truth that has been hidden, demonized, and almost erased, that your ancestors are not dead. I'll say it again. Your ancestors are not dead. You are not here on this earth alone. You're never alone. You're not here alone. You are not disconnected. You are the culmination of thousands of prayers, victories, battles, sacrifices, and wisdom that courses through your very veins, through your blood right now. And today we are reclaiming what colonization tried to steal from us, our inheritance, ancestral wisdom. And today we're unlocking the divine power that has always been within us and within you. And so if you're ready to tap into this lineage of power that you carry, I want you to type in the comment section, I am my ancestors' wildest dream. Do that for me. Everybody that's on the line, tap the screen, share, repost, and I want you to comment in the section, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. Put that in the comment section. Come on, I want to see it. I'm looking. If you're watching the replay on YouTube, I want you to put it in the comment section. Greetings, everybody. Greetings, Kashmir Unique. Thank you for the like. Thank you for the follow, everyone. I am my ancestors' wildest dream. Come on, everybody. Everybody that's on here, come on, put that in the comment section. I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. See, you got to know that your ancestors prayed for you. Y'all remember the song, Somebody Prayed for Me? You know, if you grew up in the church, had me on their mind, took a time to pray for me. I'm so glad they prayed. I'm so glad they prayed. I'm so glad they prayed for me. Then it goes on, my mother prayed for me, my grandmother prayed for my father, you know, on and on. And so you have to remind yourself that you are not here on your own merit. But the ancestors prayed for your existence before you were born, before your mother and father got together, before your parents got together and had googly eyes or had hot, passionate love together, or whether it was just a hookup, honey. It don't matter how it came. It was the way the universe chose to use your parents to bring you here. They may have been a deadbeat parent. They may have been absentee. That's all right. Because sometimes, if we be honest, all we needed was to come through the lineage, through the family line. That's sometimes all we need from some people that gave birth to us. We only needed to come to that family line. So sometimes it was on purpose that they were absentee. Because a lot of times, what we are not aware of sometimes, that it would have did us more harm than good if they had been present. We would not have grown to the place that we needed to if they had been present. So I just want you to look at things from a different perspective. Because a lot of times we allow certain thoughts and things to take us out of the frequency we should be in. That makes us go in reverse instead of forward. You cannot get into the future while driving looking in the rearview mirror. You can glance in the rearview mirror when you're trying to get over and move, but you can't drive going forward while you're staring in the rearview mirror, because you're going to have an accident. You're going to have a car crash. Something terrible is going to happen. So we got to learn to stay focused. Be like the horse that have the blinders on. When you're trying to get somewhere, you're trying to reach a goal, you got to stay focused. So I want to encourage you to refocus yourself. Refocus your mind, refocus your heart. You are the answer to your ancestors' prayer. They prayed for you to get here. And might I remind you, a lot of people, they say, oh, I wish I was born to other parents than not what I was born to. But this is something, people that say that have not come to this truth yet. That before you came into your mother's womb, before your parents got together, you chose those two particular people to come through. How about that? So think about that. You chose, from an African spiritual understanding, we chose our parents before we came to the world. They didn't choose us, we chose them. They chose to have a baby, but we chose to be the baby they gave to the world. And it is the parents, let me say this. I said this on a live last week, but the Spirit wants me to say it again. It is the child does not owe the parents anything. It is the parents that owe everything to the children. Why? Because they didn't ask to come into the world. They didn't ask you to lay up or get knocked up or however it happened to come into the world. So if you choose to bring them into the world, it is your responsibility. Not just once they're 18 and they own their own. That's the wrong mindset. That's why every other culture, the children are very close. But when you look at a lot of, especially in America, Africans born here in America, melanated people born here in America, a lot of times in our communities, the so-called African American communities, the parents and the children are not close like you see other cultures. Why? Because we have a different understanding and viewpoint. Our worldview as it relates to our children and things have become skewed because of colonization. We're looking for our children to get out of the house once they become 18. And our ancestral wisdom and culture, honey, we had a house big enough for our children to stay. If you want to get married, your wife, the husbands, everybody can stay here. You had a compound, a family compound. Everybody house, every child got a house and their family all live in the same common. They're together, community living. Having a estate big enough where all your children can stay together if they just choose to. If they don't, so what? But it's important how you place that in them from childhood. Community, family, togetherness, unity, love, compassion, forgiveness. Those values. Because from age 1 to 7, as I think I said yesterday on our live session, 1 to 7, you give me the child from 1 to 7, I'll show you the man. I'll show you the woman. Because that is where our hardwired internal programming happens from year 1 to 7 years old. A lot of people don't understand when in the healthcare profession, when we say your children, you don't give your children too much iPad time, too much TV time, on all that. It's a spiritual underlining message there too. Not just because their eyes, not just because of all the health benefits and the health ruining that watching TV and not knowing how to communicate with other humans and all of that, but spiritually, they are being programmed by the things that they see, the words that they hear, the verbiage. They're being programmed. So you should be concerned about how your children are being programmed. Because they're being programmed. How and what they're being programmed with. We should be more intentional. So let's start. Let me have a sip of this apple juice. All right. I hope you're enjoying this. Everybody that's coming on in, welcome, welcome, welcome. Do us a favor. Hit that like button. Share. Greetings, Freckle Dust. Welcome into the live. 8th House Goddess, welcome to the live. Our 8th House Awakening, welcome. Everybody, thank you for the rose, the thunderbolts, everything. Welcome, Brooke K. Welcome, good to see you again. Everybody, tap the screen, press those hearts, like, share, comment, reshare, repost, send it out, tag a neighbor, tag a friend. So we're going to go a little further. And we're going to start talking about this. Breaking the colonial spell. Breaking the colonial spell. Honoring versus worship. Because colonialism have taught us to look at our spiritual way of life and our culture, our ancestral wisdom as demonic, to view it as witchcraft, they taboo everything that they don't want us to practice. Because the purpose is to separate us from our indigenous ancestral practices that keep us strong, that keep us fortified, that keep us empowered. Separate us from that so we become weak and vulnerable. So they call all of our spiritual practices that we had before colonial religion, they call it taboos, witchcraft, devil worship. All of these things. So we have to break the colonial spell. So let's start by breaking down one of the biggest lies ever told to our people. That honoring your ancestors is evil or demonic. Anybody ever heard that before? That honoring your ancestors is evil and demonic. And godly people don't have nothing to do with that. Many of us, if we be honest, we've been indoctrinated with that concept, with that understanding. That honoring your ancestors is evil or demonic. But that's part of the colonial spell. That's right, the dead. Communicating with the dead. That's right, thank you, Jared Daniel 388. That is exactly how Christians term it. Communicating with the dead, honoring the dead, which is your ancestors, your loved ones, is evil or demonic. But that's the colonizers' version of our spiritual practice. See, colonizers came to our ancient indigenous lands all over the universe and saw rituals they didn't understand. I'm explaining to you how we got here. Why they're now saying that communicating with the dead, honoring the dead, all of that is devil worship, evil, demonic. It is because they came to our ancestral home and our lands, our indigenous places we lived all over the world, saw us practicing spiritual practices that they did not understand. And so because people, when they don't understand stuff, instead of seeking to understand, they demonize it because they don't seek to understand. Because if you're different, then that means, well, something's wrong with you. But they saw these rituals and they did not understand. These were rituals of respect, of remembrance, and rituals that connected us to our lineage. But they called it devil worship. So think about it. So if you agree with the colonizer that venerating your ancestors, honoring your dead is demonic and devil worship, that means your ancestors are devils. If you believe the colonizers' misunderstanding of our spiritual practice of venerating our ancestors, honoring our loved ones, our deceased, our dead, if you believe in their misinterpretation of our ritual, then that means you believe that your ancestors are devils. Think about it. Because the colonizers call our practice of honoring and respecting our deceased, they called it devil worship to justify destroying indigenous cultures. Hello, somebody. They taught this misconception of our ancestral practices and spiritual rituals. They deemed it devil worship so that they could destroy indigenous cultures, to get the indigenous people to stop practicing their spiritual way of life so that they could accept their whitewashed, watered down version called religion, and mainly Christianity. So I want to make this clear that honoring is not the same as worshiping. They are two different things. And if you don't know English, well, but they're not the same thing. Honoring is not the same as worshiping. So we got to get that clear. Honor is respect. Honor is remembrance. Honor is acknowledgement of those that have gone before us. Worship, on the other hand, is deification. Worship is submission. So no, we do not worship our ancestors. We have not deified them, submission to them. We honor them. Respect, remembrance, and acknowledge. That is what it is. We honor our ancestors. When we do that, when we honor our ancestors, we are simply recognizing the divine flow that moves through them and through us. Because our ancestors live on through us. If you don't believe that your ancestors lived on through you, that's the whole concept of people have children. They want their name and their legacy to remain in the earth by their children, meaning their ancestors live on through their lineage. Even in the Hebrew Bible, don't believe it about the ancestors live on through their lineage, through those they leave behind. In the Hebrew Bible, if a male, thank you for the perfume, beloved, when and I love perfume in real life. When someone passed, a male passed without having children, according to the Hebrew context and understanding, one of the brothers, nearest kinsman, would have to take on that man's wife. Because they did not have a baby, then he has to marry her and fulfill his obligation to produce a seed with that woman, and that child will carry on, if it's a male, will carry on the lineage and legacy of that deceased father. It would be said that that child is the deceased father's son, not the brother who impregnated the wife. This is according to when you look at the Hebrew text and all that in a literal sense. Meaning, it all points back to the fact that the ancestors, our loved one, our deceased, live on through us that are left here. And the divine flow through them flows through you as well. So I want you to think about this. In organized religious traditions, even today, people honor saints, especially in Catholicism and Eastern Orthodox and other communities. They honor saints, they honor martyrs, and historical figures. But when it comes to you honoring your own ancestors, your own bloodline, suddenly it's called witchcraft, devil worship. And I'm going to say that again for somebody that's on the back of the spiritual bus who are just, or maybe just entering the spiritual awakening bus. I want you to think about this. And everybody, if you haven't shared, please share this live. If you're on here, tap the screen, share this live to at least 3 people or more. Think about this. In organized religious traditions the world over, even today, people honor saints. Somebody said, what do you mean? All Saints Day, Halloween, Hallows Eve. It was the honor of the deceased, all of these things. Martin Luther King Day, all of these celebrations. President's Day, all these things. They honor saints, martyrs, and historical figures. But when when it comes to you honoring your own bloodline, your own ancestors, your own loved ones that are deceased or moved on from one side of the veil to the next, they suddenly now call it witchcraft. So you got to open up your mind to see the correlation, to see what's really happening here. The game, the spell that they've casted over us as a people. The real danger, my friend, beloveds, everybody that's assembled here, the real danger was never your ancestors. That was not the real danger. The real danger was you remembering who you are, where you come from, what stock you come from. That is the point. The colonial spell to cause you to leave your ancestral wisdom and practices and culture was not about your ancestor. It was to make you, the real danger, to forget about remembering who you are, where you come from, what kind of people you come from. That's why if anybody, I don't know if anybody on this live is from the South, grew up in the South, visited the South in the summer growing up, but in the South, older people, especially where I'm from, on the Gullah Islands and the Sea Islands and the Low Country, where old people, even to today, when they see you and they meet you for the first time, they say, you from around here? And you can say yes or no. If you say yeah, they say, who are your people? Who are your people? In other words, asking, tell me about your family lineage. Who is your mother, your father, your father's mother and father, your mother's father and mother. Tell me about all of your lineage. Tell me what area you were born in. Why do they want to know that? Because they want to know. Because when knowing that, who your people is, they know what type of person you are. And so they can discern from that if they want to deal with you or not. If you're the type of person they want to keep company with. And they know what you possess, all by knowing what family lineage you come from. So it's important. That's why they don't want you to remember. That's why they don't want us to think about our history before colonization. They don't want us to understand our history before chattel enslavement here in the West. They don't want you to remember who you were before our indigenous cultures were destroyed or tampered with by the colonizers. They don't want you to remember that, because if you remember that, then you remember that you are not just anybody, but that you are from warriors, you are from kings and queens, you are from blacksmiths, you are from knowledgeable, spiritual people, magical people, people that were connected to the divine source, that didn't need a book to tell them how to worship the divine, how to honor the divine. They didn't need a preacher to come and tell them, because they had their own spirituality and understanding of the divine. They had their own understanding of the Creator. They had their own sacred texts. They had their own priests and priestesses. They had their own prophets. Everything that the colonizers thought they were coming to bring, they already had. Grand Rising, Big Stepper, Sharp Dress A. Grand Rising, beloved. Good to see you. Welcome. So they don't want you to remember. Because remembering who you are is a threat to your colonizers. You remembering who you are and reconnecting to your ancestral power is a threat to your colonizers. Why? Because an awakened people, a people who know their roots, cannot be enslaved again. Ooh. Where my fan at? Where is it? It's over in this drawer somewhere. Oh Lord, I done took it out and put it somewhere I can't find it. Good God. Because an awakened people, those are people who know their roots, cannot be enslaved ever again. That's why you see things happening in the news. You see things happening all over the world, because the colonizers, our oppressors, those that are against true liberation for all people, they can sense the spiritual awakening happening. Why? Because the attendance in the to the church, which is a slaughterhouse, is dwindling. Because the church and the state is in the bed together. I don't believe what the hype, don't believe what they tell you. I'm telling you, and anybody that's spiritual, in the spiritual community, anybody that's awakened, anybody that's eyes open can see that the church world, the institution, and the state is in the bed together. They work hand in hand together. The church, the institution of the church, and the Bible and all that was put in place to uphold the empire. We know that Rome was destroyed years ago. But guess what they call the Vatican? Rome. aka Rome, still exists. Why? Because the institution that was set to help keep the empire in place was the church. And it is still in existence. That's right, the first church of Rome. The Roman See. Wow. So don't forget why you're waking up. Why are you waking up? You're waking up so that you can return home to your own spiritual roots. Because people of African descent, people that are melanated, people that are of indigenous ancestry, we, the first people that were ever on the earth, what you have to understand is that awakening brings you back to your roots. Awakening brings you back to who you truly are. Awakening brings you back so that you are no longer a slave to the system. When you awaken, you get out of the rat race of the system. When you awaken, you're not a longer a slave to the system. You begin to go back to your ancestral practice. Talking about the prices are going up, oh, fine. You got a yard, you got a backyard, you begin to plant. You begin to plant. You become a farmer. Why? Because you're coming back to you coming back home. You're coming back to your ancestral practices. Learn how to do things on your own instead of relying on a people elsewhere. Let me tell you, liberation, true liberation completely, will not take place till we know how to do everything for ourselves. Y'all saw on TikTok and everywhere where all of the Chinese and different people were talking about how they make this and they're artisans and they do that and they do that and they produce this and the luxury brands just come on and slap their name on it. They brand. Well, now everybody said, oh, I'm going to go buy the quote-unquote fake one because they just the same. The quality is the same. They don't have the name brand. That's the wrong thing to do. What you need to do is learn how to make it yourself. Don't switch from one oppressor to the next. Start lining their pockets, honey, because they don't mean you no good either if you're going to tell it like it is. When you go in their store, honey, they walking around looking at you like you come in there to take the shoplift. Hello? So don't move from lining one oppressor's pocket to another. No, you need to learn how to support your own. Learn how to support your own or make it yourself. We need people who know how to make undergarments. People who know how to make different clothing. All of these different things. Make it for ourselves. Produce it ourselves. And support those that do it so that we can be self-sufficient. Because we'll never be self-sufficient if we are still supporting those who are making the policies and are backing those who are putting things in place for our demise. This is what we have to remember. This is what we have to keep in mind, be cognizant of. So let's talk about this. Ancestral energy is living energy. Let's talk about that. Ancestral energy is living energy. Here's why. And this is what they don't want you to know. Here's what they don't want you to know. Is that energy cannot be destroyed, only transferred. I'm going to say again, energy, scientifically, metaphysically, physics, all of this point to the fact and teach us that energy can't be destroyed, only transferred. So when your body is lifeless and your spirit splits from this body, your soul, it doesn't die. The real you doesn't die. Your fleshly body dies and it decays. It goes back to where it came from. But the real you lives on. It transitions from one veil to the next, from one form to the next. Because energy cannot be destroyed, only transferred. That's something to remember. Spirit was never born, so spirit cannot die. But the flesh was born, so the flesh can die. This human body. Your ancestors have transitioned. They may have transitioned from the physical plane, but their spirit, their soul, their consciousness, their wisdom, and their power live on. It don't stop nothing because all they did is move from one, the physical plane, to the astral, spiritual plane. And when you live, they live. Beloved, when you feel that whisper in your spirit, when you sense an unexplainable knowing, when you dream and see your elders guiding you, that's ancestral wisdom speaking to you. When you're in the kitchen cooking, your mom or your grandmother's favorite meal or your great-grandmother's favorite cake, and you can sense their smell, and you can hear their voice, or when you're about to make a big decision and you can hear the voice of your mother or your father or your great aunt telling you advice that they used to say when they were on the physical plane, that is ancestral wisdom speaking to you, yet from the other side. Don't let the colonizers cause you to believe that it's a demon speaking to you, honey. We talked yesterday about, let's see, what was the topic yesterday? Yesterday, our topic was the truth about spiritual warfare. It's a battle of consciousness, not demons. See, because the colonizers want you to believe everything is a demon. Everywhere you look, honey, there's a demon under the coat closet, behind every corner. But the real demon is the battle of your consciousness, your mind. And so you must understand that you, my dear friend, everyone assembled, you are a continuation of your ancestors' prayer. Your ancestors prayed that I may not live to see the day, but I pray that my children will see the day of true liberation. Martin Luther King is an ancestor. He said, I may not live to see it, but I got a dream that one day, that was his prayer, that was his vision. And guess what? He didn't live to see it, but his children are here, some of them to live to see the manifestation of his prayer and his dream. You, my friend, have to know that you are the manifestation of your ancestors' sacrifices. I'm going to say that again. You are the manifestation of your ancestors' sacrifices. Your ancestors, your loved ones that have gone on, made so much sacrifices so that you can stand where you are today. My ancestors made so many sacrifices so I could sit in front of this camera and speak truth to power, speak truth to my people to awaken them to who they truly are. Because once upon a time, that wasn't happening. That wasn't done. So remember the sacrifices that your ancestors made. Never think you made it on your own. It was the creator, the divine, the most high, the source, the infinite source of all that is, and your ancestors, along with your perseverance, that got you where you are. And it's going to get you where you're going. And you have to remember, you don't have to navigate this life alone. Hello, somebody. You don't have to navigate this life alone. A lot of people, when their loved ones transition to the other side, they get fearful. Oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What you're going to do is lean into the wisdom of your ancestors. That's what you're going to do. You want to follow in the tradition, in the spiritual rituals, in the path that your ancestors left for you to be able to connect to the divine. So remember, you don't have to navigate this life alone. Your bloodline is your spiritual support system. I'm going to say that again. Everybody, welcome if you're just joining us to the Soul Awakening Sanctuary Movement. And I'm yours truly, Chief Apostle Veronica Yisrael. Tap the screen. Share, repost, share to at least 3 people. Tap the screen, press those hearts, comment, let somebody know that we're alive. Everybody that's on, put something in the comment section. If you are receiving this teaching today, say, I'm returning home. Say, I'm returning home. I'm returning to my roots today. So you got to know you don't navigate this life alone. Your bloodline is your spiritual support system. I'm glad I showed up in your FYP2 8th House of Awakening. I'm so happy because I see a lot of people today that have come through new. So I'm glad that you are coming in and that you found me. That's my prayer always when I go live. Universe, creator, source, most high, divine within. Allow those that should be connected or hear my voice to hear what you've given me to say. Let them connect. Beyond and it's in spite of the algorithm and what they try to do because we teach in truth. Let this live reach them. That's my prayer. So whoever get on, whether it's 1, whether it's 0, whether it's 5, 12, 100. That's my prayer to the divine, to my ancestors every day. Because somebody needs this cold glass of water, of truth, because they've been getting dirty water filled with lies, indoctrination, and half-truths. And people are waking up today and they're saying, listen, the preacher lied to me. My parents lied to me because they took me to the church and the preacher lied to me. I want truth. And so here the divine has brought us here to share the truth. Thank you so very much. Everybody, just tap the screen and share. We appreciate your help. And those that are enjoying this live broadcast, if you want to support our platform and our mission, you can do it through Cash App. I think it's in the caption of the live. It's in my bio on our flyers on our page, but I'll just say it to you. It's Cash App, $ capital VSY, lowercase ISRAEL 2021. Again, it's Cash App, $ capital VSY, lowercase ISRAEL 2021. It's my first initials and my last name, 2021. And so we're so happy to have you, and thank you so very much. Now, I have something I want you to think about. If you've ever felt your ancestors guiding you or whispering truth into your soul, if you've ever had that experience, and felt the gentle hand of your ancestors guiding and protecting you and whispering truth into your soul, I want you to put in the comment section, I am guided by my bloodline. Put that in the comment section. If you've ever felt your ancestors guiding, protecting you, whispering to your soul truths, letting you know what's right and wrong, when somebody's lying to you or not, what way you need to take. If you ever felt that, I want you to type, I am guided by my bloodline. That's right. Greetings, Choke Bread. Thank you for following us. Thank you for the follow. Greetings. Welcome. And I like what the eighth house said, I am always guided by my bloodline. Ashe. Ashe. I am always guided by my bloodline. So I want you to take a moment. Again, if you just joined us, share the live at least to 3 people or more. Share this with someone that you know need to hear this. Share this live to somebody that you know needs to be enlightened. Even those people that you know, they quote unquote, sometime when we have woken up to truth, sometime when we are confronted with other people and sharing it, we say, oh, they ain't ready for this. Honey, it's not your job to say who's ready for truth or awakening or not. It's our job just to disseminate, to share. The organized religion world didn't have no problem forcing indoctrination on you. They didn't have no problem with quote unquote evangelizing and spreading the good news, which is really colonization and indoctrination and dogma. They would knock on your doors, passing tracts, or as the little meme and little video that says, "Are you ready for Jehovah's return?" And the person slams the door, and they say, "I just want you to know he's coming anyway." They didn't have no problem knocking on doors and passing out tracts and telling people about what they understood or thought was the truth. So we cannot be lackadaisical and standing in our truth and our ancestral wisdom and sharing that with our people and those that will hear. We cannot be apologetic about it. We must be unapologetic. That's right. We need to use the same energy. We need to be just as dogmatic as they were. We need to be just as enthused to spread this truth of spiritual awakening, coming to your own inner divinity, that they were when they were telling us about a sky daddy. You need to be just as enthused to tell people that the divine lives on the inside of you. God is within you. Christ is within you. You are God in flesh having a human experience. If it's true that you were made in the image and likeness of the Creator, that means you are also a creator. Think about that. When these two genders of male and female or different body parts that meet together, when they get together and they procreate, you are a creator when you produce a baby. You're a creator. When you speak life and things happen, you're able to transmute energy. When you're able to speak to situations and they shift, you are a creator. So to the church don't teach you that you're a co-creator with the divine. They teach you that you're worthless, nothing. And there's something wrong with you because of original sin, but they got the cure. That is the spell that they teach to keep you hooked on the hell of a drug called indoctrination. Greetings, Miss Kia 777. Greetings. I hope you're doing well. So we have to be aware of what's happening. I want you to know there's healing in this message today, in this conscious spiritual teaching. There is healing. And healing needs to travel. What I love is how people are being healed through the words that we speak here. Greetings, children, and joy. Greetings. You are being awakened. Because so many people that come across lives like this, these are thoughts that they've had and questions that they've had, but they had never had nobody to talk to or nobody to say it out loud and with boldness. I remember the first time I stood up in a congregation years ago back home, and I stood up and I said, Yeshua commonly called, well, I said, first of all, Jesus was not his name. His name was Yeshua, which people commonly call Jesus. I remember the first time I made that statement in a church, and honey, their eyes popped open, ready to fall out their socket. I remember the first time I made the declaration in my pulpit back home in South Carolina when I said that Mary had a husband and they had a baby, and his name was Yeshua. Yeshua had brothers and sisters, and Yeshua had an earthly mother and father. That Mary was not a virgin. And there was no such thing as immaculate conception. I remember the first thing I said that time, I said, and honey, the people went wild. I mean, the first time I taught that, and my spouse at the time said, I always questioned how the story, the biblical narrative that Mary was a virgin and she had a baby without her husband, without a man. See, people have these questions and looming in their mind, but this is the thing to understand. Many of your preachers and your pastors, they know the truth. Especially if they've been to seminary, they know the truth. But they will not get up in their pulpits and say it. Why? Because they are trying to protect their interests, line their pockets. They have their bank accounts to worry about, their insurance to worry about. So they ain't gonna preach the truth. They're not going to tell you what you need to know to awaken yourself. Because what need do you have of them if you understand that you don't have to go through a middleman to connect to the divine? Because the divine is in you. Always have been. Always will be. Greetings, Sister Swanee. Greetings, beloved. To the evangelist Swanee. Greetings, beloved. Hope you're doing well. So this is important to understand. I remember the first time I stood up in my pulpit in South Carolina that I pastored and founded, and I said that Yeshua, commonly called Jesus, was not the founder of Christianity. He did not come to start a religion. He was himself not a Christian. He was a Hebrew, an Israelite, what we call Jewish. And the people's eyes were just, they didn't know what to do. All right, big stepper, sharp dress, 8. Yeah, been there. He says, been there, but I still walked away and embraced the truth. Pastor for more than 30 years. See, that's what I'm talking about. Preach for nearly 40. That's what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking. I was there. Pastoring, being a bishop over different local churches, starting congregations and all. But you have to be willing to forsake everything for truth. or you want to reinforce the oppressive system that we claim we are fighting against. This is the metaphysical understanding of when Yeshua said, you got to be willing to forsake all and follow me. Following him was not to deify him. Following him was to be like him, to follow his teaching, to be willing to follow truth and to awaken to who you are. In order to do that, you have to be willing to forsake all others. That is the metaphysical meaning of that verse. You have to be willing to forsake all others. Everybody else's opinion, everybody else's view. People calling you a heretic. People calling you a backslider. People calling you lost, a sinner, saying you leading people to hell. Well, I don't heard it all. They done told. I have been told off all kind of ways. But guess what? I'm still yet declaring the truth. Why? Because I know it's right. I know it's truth. And I was willing to walk away from it all. Yeshua said, greater things shall you do than I did. That lets you know he wasn't telling you, oh, I'm it with a bag of chips. And I should be deified, merciful. No, he was saying, I'm your big brother, and I'm here to show you what God manifested in the flesh looked like. I'm here to show you what you can be as God manifested in the flesh. When you awaken to who you are, you can walk in this same power and do greater things that I did. But many of the church people say they love the Lord, which they're referring to Jesus, and they're a follower of Jesus, but they don't do nothing Jesus said. They're more of a follower of Paul than they are of whom they call Jesus. Because every time they go to say women can't be preachers or teachers or leaders, they go to Paul. Every time they go to say a woman should be silent in church, they go to Paul. Because Yeshua, commonly called Jesus, never said that. It's a big shock when people are taught now that Yeshua wasn't a virgin. Yeshua, commonly called Jesus, was married, had children. Boy, isn't that a shocker? That there were female apostles. That the true leader that he left his group, his following, entrusted it to a woman, not Peter, like the Catholic Church like to believe. That Peter was the first pope of the church. The apostle that Yeshua left his followers, left them in charge of his movement, was a woman. But the church don't teach that because they don't teach the gospel of Mary. Why? Because it doesn't fit in their patriarchal system. So they're not going to teach that. Because all Abrahamic religions are patriarchal. And they, believe it or not, they have a disdain for women. Woo! Isn't that something? How a woman can give birth, biological woman can give birth to children and teach them all the way from childhood on up. But yet they can't be priests and priestesses in the Abrahamic religions. They could teach that boy all he knows. But then the church says she can't be the leader. Why she can't be the lead? Because if we be honest, now I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna get back on track on our teaching. And we're gonna talk about why they feared ancestral connection, why the colonizers feared ancestral connection. That's what we're gonna talk about next. But let me say this. If we be honest with ourselves, when we look at the black church belongs to the black woman, the black Madonna. If we be honest, the black church belongs to the black woman because without the black woman, there would be no black church. Oftentimes, she was the one that helped establish the church. She was the one that went into the neighborhood and preached and taught and held Bible circles and prayer circles and got the people to come. Women, black women are the backbone of the African American church or the black church in general, world over. And she was the foundation. She sold those chicken dinners, those fish fries, gave up her money, worked hard, paid the tithe and offering, raised cakes, baked cakes, sold cakes, did all kind of fundraisers to build a edifice and got the people in the building. But once she did that, the religion said, now you can't be the pastor. You got to turn it over to this man. He going to be the pastor. He didn't do nothing to make it happen, to make it manifest. But yet, he gets the credit for being the pastor. So the women did all the work. Think about it. That's right, the financial backbone. That's right. And some women, even today, that are in the church, they always talking about, oh, why there's not a lot of men in the church, honey, because the men knew that it was BS all along. Many of the men knew it was BS all along. And they knew that preacher in that pulpit wasn't living worth a nickel of what he was talking about. So many of our men never fell for it. They wasn't giving their money to the church. See, because we have been lied to and told that in order to be blessed and have financial blessings, we got to pay tithes and offering to a church. When that's so far from people are being taught the spell. The spell is being casted over them, telling them, using fear, using the tactic of fear, putting them in the middle of prison, telling them, if you don't pay your tithes and offering, you're cursed. Why would a divine creator, source of all things, who need nothing from us, want us to pay tithes and offering, require us to bring tithes and offering to a church? Knowing that the church ain't even half the time doing what they're supposed to do with the money that is coming in. Ooh, let's let that sit. Because Abrahamic religions don't like the truth that the divine mother is the seat of power. The divine mother, the divine feminine, is what we need to help center us. Not to be dogmatic, but to help bring balance, the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And our African spirituality and our cultures taught the divine feminine and the divine masculine as a balance, not about gender, but about balance, energy. And when you have the divine masculine and no divine feminine is what you have matriarch, you have patriarch rather. When you have the divine feminine and no divine, or divine masculine and no divine feminine. Let's get that right. When we have divine masculine and no divine feminine, we have patriarchy. But when we have the divine feminine and the divine masculine, we have balance. That's right. The Ma'at. I love the principles of Ma'at. Truth, harmony, and balance. I did a teaching about Ma'at and the principles. A lot of people think, I don't know why this light keeps going on and off here. I may have to get a new one of these, a new light here for this one, because we are broadcasting on 2 devices. However, it's amazing how people are taught that about the Moses character, how he went on Mount Sinai and he got the 10 Commandments, not knowing that that is a part of, what is it, the 32 negative confessions. Now, if the story be true, the biblical account, who was raised as an Egyptian, that means he was taught in the mystery schools of Egypt by the priests and priestesses in Egypt. He was taught, that's right, the 42 negative confessions. He was taught those things. He was taught about Ma'at. He was taught about the quote-unquote Book of the Dead. Truly, the book of the coming forth by day and going forth by night. He was taught about those things. But the Hebrews, to make their mark on the world and to set a tradition for themselves, say that Moses went on the mountain and he got 10. But when you look and analyze what's older than the 10, he got 10 outside of, he took outside of the 42 negative confessions. This is the truth that we have not been taught. We have not heard about our ancestral power and our ancestral spiritual practices. So let's get real for a moment. Everybody, if you're just coming in, please tap the screen, tap the screen for us. Like, share, comment, reshare, repost. Let us offset the algorithm. Help me out, please, everybody. Share, like, repost, comment, invite a neighbor, invite a friend. Put something in the comment section if you're enjoying this live session, if you're learning something or you're being reminded of something, if this is a refresher for you. That's right. I have not versus I shall. And that's more powerful than anything. Not I shall not commit adultery. I have not. I have not committed sin. I have not committed robbery with violence. I have not stolen. I have not slain men or women. I have not cursed God or the goddess. I have not been exclusively angry. I have not swindled offerings. Not about a thou shalt not. It's about I have not. I have not spoken angrily or arrogantly. Maybe tomorrow we'll go through the 42 divine principles of Ma'at. Because these are the things we should be living by. Greetings, Mike L. Good to see you, my dear. Good day, Grand Rising, Grand Afternoon. Hope you're doing well. But these are the things, the 42 divine principles and ideals of Ma'at. So maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow during our noonday session together live. So now let's get real. Let's talk about this. I want you to think about this. Why did the colonizers fear your ancestral practices so much? Think about that. Why did your colonizers fear your ancestral practices so much? So much so that they made it a taboo. They demonized it. They called it heresy, called it witchcraft, called it devil worship, all of these things to separate you from your ancestral connection and practices. Why? They feared it because connection to your ancestors mean connection to power. I'm going to say that again. The colonizers feared you being in connection with your ancestral practices because connection to your ancestors means connection to power. Connection to wisdom that predates colonization. Connection to wisdom that predates Christianity. Connection to wisdom that predates the empire. That's right, they stole our power. And how did they do it? By disconnecting us from our ancestral practice and spiritual understanding, from our names. So many people are naming their children with quote-unquote Christian names. Peter, John, James, Mary. Oh, well, it's in the Bible. Well, all of those people that is in the Greek scriptures, commonly called New Testament, they were all Jews. They were Hebrews. So instead of Mary, they were Miriam. Instead of John, it was Yehochanan. Instead of Jesus, it was Yeshua. Instead of Joseph, it was Yehoshua. Names mean something. That's why when you look at the movie Roots, the original, and Toby, I believe it was, who they wanted to name him Kuta Kinte, or rather Kuta Kinte, and they named him Toby. It's been so long. Kuta Kinte, we wanted to name him Toby. I believe that's what it is. He was Kuta Kinte, but they wanted to name him Toby. He held to his name as long as he could. But through duress and physical torture, this is how they made us convert, to give up our ancestral knowledge. That's right, cut our spiritual umbilical cords. So I want you to think about this. If they could sever you from your roots, they could rewrite your story. And that's what they did. If they can sever you from your roots, they can rewrite your story. And that's exactly what they did. That's what history is about. History is his story. Somebody else's story about your records of the past. Their version. History is written by the conqueror, not the conquered. And they write it in their favor. It's probably just a pack of lies, but they write it and it looks favorable upon them. That's why we have to learn to tell our own story. We got to know our own history. We can retell our records of the past. So if they could sever you from your roots, they could rewrite your story. Make you forget your greatness. Make you believe that you were powerless, lost, and alone. And beloved, if you believe you're powerless, you're easy to control. I'm going to say that again. If you believe you're powerless, You are an easy moving target to be controlled. But when you are awakened, when your mind is out of mental prisons and your mind is liberated and you're not thinking you're powerless, you're no longer able to be controlled. Think about this. They didn't just want our land. The colonizers just didn't want our land. They wanted your memory. They wanted to sever your lineage of greatness and replace it with fear and dependency. I'm going to say that again. The colonizers just didn't want our land. They wanted our memory. They wanted to sever our ties from our lineage of greatness and replace it with fear and dependency upon them. That's what the colonizers did in the USA as it relates to the welfare, housing. They said, I'll give you a place to stay. I'm your man, not that man in your home. He's not your man no more. The black man's not your man. I'm your man. And I'll feed you. I'll clothe you. Give you vouchers. Take care of you and your children. Long as no man is in your home. Talk about slavery, yet in today's world. So the man have to sneak in and out or be away when they come to do inspections. Make sure none of his stuff is there. All of these things just to receive assistance that they needed to live and to be as humans, have their rights, dignity. So they separated the family. Where did that start? It started right here in child enslavement. Ripping families apart, ripping husbands and wives and children from their parents and parents from their children, selling them off to different plantations all across up in north and east. Separated the family. And we are still having effects of that trauma today. If you want to get to the bottom of why sometimes men don't stay and take care of their responsibilities, you have to go back to child enslavement because it still has an impact on our psyche and male, female children today. But today, beloved, we are here today to reverse the amnesia. Teachings like this, when I come on live every day, and I am coming to help reverse the amnesia, to help us to remember, to reclaim, and to rise again, to come out of that psychosis, religious psychosis, and come into your authentic power. And I'm going to give you some practical ways, 5 practical ways, and how to connect with your ancestors. If you want to know, you may want to take note. This is 5 practical ways on how to reconnect with your ancestors. Because now we understand the why. We got to now talk about the how. How do you honor your ancestors in practical ways, in powerful and sacred ways? Number 1, speak their names. Don't let their name go down. Don't let their memory go down in the ground and rot in the earth. Speak their names. Keep their memory alive. Say their names in prayer, meditation, or moments of gratitude. Part of ancestor veneration, honoring ancestors, in different churches, families would, in the African American church back in the day, families would purchase pews in honor of their deceased ancestors. They would purchase windows and they would have names and gold plates on in remembrance of these people. This is a way of honoring your ancestors and keeping their memory alive. Holding memorials and candlelights, speaking their names, another way of honoring your ancestors. Setting up altars in your home, in a holy and sacred space in your house, where you set up your altar, have pictures of your loved ones, your ancestors, light candles in their memory, say special prayers, read some of their favorite psalms, their prayers, sing some of the songs that they used to sing. Remember them and thank them for their sacrifices. Keep their name alive. Go in that recipe book you got of your mama, or your grandmothers, or your great-grandfathers. Bake one of their cakes. Bake one of their pastries. Cook one of their favorite foods. Speak their name. It's one of the most powerful ways to keep their memory alive. Number 2, set up ancestral spaces, which I alluded to in the first one. A simple table, candle, flowers, photos, and meaningful items. Because remember, it's not worship. It's acknowledgement. It's remembrance. Not worship, not deification and submission. So set up those spaces in their honor. And when you feel alone, when you feel down, when you want to have secret time of prayer, go there. Black people are so afraid of when you hear people having altars. But all through the Hebrew Bible, they had altars. Even in the Greek scriptures, commonly called New Testament, they had altars. Even in churches, they have altars. So what's wrong with you having an altar in your house? Come on, we got it. Cognitive. Use your critical thinking skills. These are the things that's going to reconnect you with your ancestral wisdom and power. This is what they don't want you to do, because you will reconnect with your lineage, reconnect with your power, reconnect with wisdom that predates colonization, colonialism, predate Christianity, predate the empire. So number 3, ask for wisdom and guidance. Before you make major big decisions, always go around your altar and pray. Ask for clarity and wisdom from your ancestors and the divine. Don't make no big purchases or big decisions without seeking their wisdom, their knowledge, their guidance. That's why a lot of times we make mistakes, because we ain't sought guidance. I believe it's in the book of Psalms or Proverbs. It says, in the multitude of counsel, there is safety. Greetings, copper rats. Welcome. In the multitude of counsel, there is safety. Surrounding yourself with wise counsel helps and make you not fall into errors and make blunders. You can make educated decisions, wise decisions, calculated decisions. But when you only talking to your peers who just know as much as you know, or not seeking counsel from the elders and you just doing it on a whim, you will face failure in the face. Then you want to give up and, I'm not going to do it again because it didn't work. You did not seek counsel from the divine and from your ancestors and from the elders. This is why you failed. This is why you made poor decisions. And your poor decisions today makes for a poor future. Because what you say and do and think today propels and creates your tomorrow. Somebody put that in the chat. What I do today creates my tomorrow. What I do, think, and say today creates my tomorrow. Whatever I do, say, and think today creates my tomorrow. Whatever I do and say today creates my tomorrow. Because your words and your thoughts have power. That's what I do and think and say today creates your tomorrow. Because your words have power. Your thoughts are things. It has power. You can say one thing, but if you think another, it ain't gonna work. It's a contradiction here. You have to bring your whole self into alignment. So number 1, speak their names. Number 2, set up ancestral altars. Number 3, ask for wisdom and guidance. Number 4, live well. We have to learn to start living well. What do you mean, Chief, by living well? The greatest honor you can give your ancestors is for you to thrive. The greatest homage and honor for their sacrifice and their love and their wisdom that you can give them is for you to thrive. For you not to just waste time and waste your life. The greatest honor you can do to give your ancestors is for you to thrive, for you to succeed, for you to heal, for you to love. That is the greatest honor you can give your ancestors. So learn to live well. People going to the church 24/7, 5 days a week, in and out, all this kind of foolishness, never going to the beach, never going out, never going to the movies, never hanging out with friends, never going to have a cocktail, never going to do all this church. So much so that when the children get older, they're so sheltered, they don't know nothing. They don't know anything. Can you believe it? That I never had a cocktail, never smoked, never drank, never did anything, never went to a club, bar, nothing. Till years later, I had been married for 10 years. I had lived a whole life until I decided to move away from my hometown. They got divorced, moved from my hometown, and moved to Atlanta. First time I ever went to a club. First time I ever had a cocktail. First time I ever, just went and experienced life. Go to the beach, just enjoy myself. I was well into life because I was sheltered. I went to private school. And it wasn't until when it was coming up to my sophomore, junior year, that I finally said I wanted to go to public school. And my parents said, "You sure?" I said, "Yeah." Well, I went for the sophomore year, because private school and public school, their timing of schooling is off. Their summers are different. So I went and signed up. My mother wouldn't sign me up, and I went to school for 1 week to public school. Honey, it was a culture shock. It was a culture shock. I had never seen so many black people in one place. It was a culture shock. Honey, the dressing, honey, women were wearing thongs, and the girls wearing thongs and short mini skirts, and the boys' pants was hanging down, and people were hugging and courting and kissing and going in the corners and stuff. Honey, I was shocked. I was clutching my pearls. I didn't know what, because I was not used to that. I went to a Christian private school, had devotional every morning, prayer, scripture reading, a sermon. Went to school. Sometimes I even preached during chapel in school. So it was we had a uniform. It was very stark different from what I was used to. And most of the people I was around were Caucasians, Europeans, white folks. But I decided I wanted to be around my people. I wanted to not lose touch with the culture. So I went back. After that first week, I went back to private school. I finished the rest of my summer and I went back to private school my sophomore year because I said, I can't do it. But then the next year, I said, you know what? I'm going to go. I was ready. And then I went to public school all the way to graduating high school. Because I wanted to be around my people. And I wanted to see. I didn't want to be so sheltered. Because you got to remember, if your spirituality or your religion or your faith is so strong, it don't matter what scenario you are placed in, you hold strong to your convictions. And as a young person, I had to understand that it didn't matter what school I went to, it didn't matter what surroundings I was in, my faith, my spirituality should be up to withhold anything. And if it can't, I need to go back to the drawing board because there's something wrong. Greetings, love, rise above all. Thank you for the follow. Thank you for being here. Mike L., that's right. The pastors and family are thriving. The people are not. That's right. The pastors and these leaders, honey, they line in their pockets, got private jets and all that. And it ain't because they're authors and they got money and they're writing books. Half of these people don't have no business sense outside of the church world. So we're not talking about people have their own business that they go motivational speak around the world. They have books that they write. They have different consultation. We're not talking about that. Many of these pastors, all they going around getting up in the church, so all they stuff prophesying to everybody. Halftime they prophesying, going around indoctrinating people, preaching on stuff that they don't even believe in, they don't live. Talking about homosexuality when half of them got the boys in the hotel after the convention. Half of these church conventions and conferences are nothing but orgies. Woo! Let me clear the air there. Many of these church conferences and conventions and holy convocation, all they're doing is meeting up to link up. Having their pool parties and doing their own things and whatnot. Nothing wrong with pool parties, but they preach against these things. They in there having cigars and smoking all kind of things. They're doing that, but yet they get in a pulpit on the stage and preach against it. Hypocrites. Let me tell you what, honey. You should only teach, preach, and speak about what you live. This is why when preachers are found in these compromising positions, there's a scandal. And there's a scandal because you got up and preached against something that you did not yourself live by. So yes, it's a scandal. Yes, everybody going to talk about you. And they should talk about you. Why? Because you're a phony, you're a fake, you're a hypocrite. You're an actor on a stage just like an actor in a movie. You're playing a part, but you're not living it authentically. Learn to be you. That's what they're not teaching in the church, to learn to be you. Why is a man going to marry a woman for a beard or cover up, knowing he loved the same gender? Then he's going to be messing around on his wife and carrying on, having babies with her, only for show, so that people won't suspect that he is what he truly is. Hypocrisy. And if it's anything that God would detest, it would be that, the hypocrisy. Instead of living your truth. God ain't worried about you living in your truth. The divine ain't worried about you living in truth. It's worried about you lying to yourself. Because it's not about lying to other people, honey. It's about lying to yourself. And when you lie to yourself, when you can't face the truth yourself of who you are, Houston, we got a problem. Because you will never be honest with anybody else. And the women, many of the women that are in the church, they marry these men, knowing these men are either same-gender loving or bisexual. They know it, but they ignore the signs. They act like they don't know. I remember years ago, back home, there was this woman. They shall remain nameless. It was this woman who was warned not to marry this young man because of his proclivities, because of who he truly was. Not only was he warned, the family warned this woman. She was a preacher in the church, worker in the church, and he went to the church too. But the family and all warned this woman, do not marry this young man because he's same-gender loving. He's in the closet, but he lying to himself and to everybody else. Don't marry him unless you're willing to deal with that. Honey, she went and married anyway. I guess she thought, honey, her stuff was good enough. It was going to turn him from loving what he loved to only loving her. It was going to change him. But honey, I said like the elders back home in the Gullah culture, we say the mama done changed the diaper, honey. Ain't nothing you can do. You cannot change a man. You cannot change a woman. However you meet them, however they are, if you cannot live with what you see, leave them where they are. Because no amount of prayer, no amount of fasting, no amount of sacrifice is going to change them. No amount of love is going to change them. No matter how much you let them walk over you and your dignity, it's still not going to change them. So make the affirmation with me. Put that in the comment. Everybody that's on the live or if you're watching the replay, put that in the comment section. I cannot change anyone but myself. Put that in the comment section. I cannot change anyone but myself. I cannot change anyone but myself. Greetings, Marina Ways. Beautiful. So good to see you. Hope you're doing well. I cannot change anyone but myself. So I don't need to even try to change anybody. I can't change my partner. So if I cannot love them as they are, then I need to go back to the drawing board. People in relationships they've been in for years and years and years, and it ain't going nowhere. Why? Because they have not spoken and looked at the truth for themselves. They haven't looked in their own heart to see who they are, who they truly are. So this woman went on, for this is the story, and we're going to continue on. This woman went on to marry this young man. And guess what? They don't have children at all. And down the line, guess what? She came home from work and found him. What did he find him doing? In the bed with another man. She came home from work and found her husband in the bed with another man. In their matrimonial bed. Now that's the worst of it all. Found them in their matrimonial bed. I don't got nothing to say with him because he was saying gender loving. What the problem is that he could not speak the truth to himself, nor to the one he claimed to love and marry, cherish, and to be faithful to. And let me say this, just because somebody marries the opposite sex and they are faithful, do not mean their sexual orientation changes. Honey, you may not be sleeping with the same gender loving sex, but that don't mean that you change who you are and what you love and your proclivities. You just know how to be faithful. Woo! Let me jump off that subject because that may ruffle some feathers. So we're dealing with 5 practical ways to reconnect with your ancestors. Let's get back to that. 1, speak their names. 2, set up ancestral spaces. 3, ask for wisdom and guidance. 4, live well. The greatest honor you can give your ancestors is by living well, by being great, succeeding, healing, and loving. And number 5, the last. Greatest honor that you can give your ancestors. The greatest practical practice you can do to reconnect with them is to heal generational patterns, heal generational wounds. Break the cycles that they couldn't. Break the cycles that your ancestors and the generations before you could not break. Your healing, beloved, is your ancestors' healing. Thank you for the follow. Your healing is the healing of your ancestors. If your ancestors wasn't good with money, wasn't good with finance, they didn't have financial literacy, you learning financial literacy breaks that cycle. It heals that wound in you and it helps you to pass that on to your next generation. So that stops with you. So if you want to talk about quote-unquote generational curses, this is what it is. Healing your generational patterns, that's what it is. If the women in your family have trouble loving and trusting men, maybe you should heal that wound. Because something happened in the generations before. To a great-great-great-great-grandmother, great-great-great-grandmother, or something that they passed that down. To distrust men, to not love men, to not know how to deal with men. So learn to heal those wounds that are in you that was in them. Wounds they couldn't heal. They didn't have the courage to heal. Some of your ancestors were indoctrinated in under the spell of organized religion. And they couldn't break free to their own ancestral power. They couldn't reconnect. They didn't have the strength to. So you walking away from organized, colonized religion back to your ancestral practices and spirituality helps heal that wound. Maybe down in your lineage, the mother and the daughters didn't get along. You come from a long line where aunts are jealous of their nieces. Mothers are at odds with their children. Mothers are jealous of their children. Mothers don't really love their daughters. They don't really get along with their daughters. They don't know how to love each other and be a family and friends and connected. Maybe that's a trauma that's in your lineage. So heal that within you, because when you do, you heal them and you heal the line of generation coming after you. That are some of the greatest things you can do to honor your ancestors. Because every time you heal, beloved, every time you heal backwards first and then forward through time. So I'm going to say that again. Every time you heal, beloved, you heal backwards first, then forwards through time. Because you are liberating not only yourself, but you are liberating generations. You're not only liberating yourself, you're liberating generations past, present, and future. Somebody said, well, I can't do nothing about the generation before me. Yes, you can, because when you heal, it's a healing for them. When you win, it's a win for them. Because guess what? Your ancestors live through you. Another interesting point, you ever seen, they always say when someone dies, a child is born simultaneously. And you ever felt and saw in a family that the child looks just like a great aunt, great grandfather, or great great grandmother? They look just like them. Even when they grow up, their mannerism is just like them. Their ways, their knowledge, their wisdom is beyond their years. Hello, what does it take for you to see is your ancestor returned through this child, to this family? These are powerful spiritual things that our ancestors of wisdom used to teach us and left for us, but we've abandoned it because a colonizer said to abandon it. And to try to make our life more easier in this world and navigate through it, we adopted our colonizers' indoctrination, doctrine, and dogma to survive. But guess what? We don't have to do that anymore. Our ancestors had to do it to survive. They converted under coercion. They converted under the sword. That's why I always used to tell people, I cannot be a part of any religion that caused people to convert under duress. And many religions have done it. The three major Abrahamic religions did it. Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Judaism didn't do let's make this clear, they didn't do the under the duress to convert. But they sure did, if you take the Hebrew Bible in a literal sense, they slaughtered a lot of people in the name of their God. A lot of people like to talk about Islam and their extremism, but what about the Hebrews, those Jews and their extremism? Let's talk about that. When you read the Hebrew Bible, they go and say God give them a land that belonged to somebody else. There was no state of Israel before 1948. It did never exist until 1948. When the U.S. government supported the backing for the Jews to have their own land and place to be. People talk about, when them people that's walking on the streets wearing them purple garments and them things at the bottom of their clothes looking like a curtain hanging up on an old-fashioned wall. They out here preaching on the street talking about the lost tribes of Israel. Ain't never been lost. They ain't never been lost. The Hebrews been right in Africa all along. All along. So they ain't never been lost. So these are things we have to wake up to, have to open our understanding, expand our consciousness. You have to read more than just the Bible, honey. To all my Bible thumpers, you ain't never read nothing outside of the Bible, honey. That's why your mind is so closed off. That's why you indoctrinated. That's why you can't see nothing past what you believe. Every time I hear Christians downplay or talk about Buddha can't save you, Buddha's dead, Confucius is confused, and all this other stuff, and Muhammad is wrong, but Jesus is the only way. When I hear people say stuff like that, they let me know their brain is fried. Their brain is fried, honey. They got church brain. Their brain being cooked up by indoctrination. Because you believe that your path is the only path. That is the problem with Christian nationalism. That is the problem. Because they believe their path is the only path. Yeshua never said that he was the only path. Never said it. Can't find it. But those years later now, they are promulgating the teaching that Christianity is the only true way. Exclusivism. That we the only ones right. That we the only ones when we go to the afterlife that's going to be there. This is the stinking thinking that causes us to separate ourselves from the rest of humanity and dehumanize others who do not follow our tradition and ways of life. That's the problem. So I want to give you an affirmation. Come on, let's affirm together. Let's affirm together. Repeat after me. I honor the wisdom of those who came before me. Come on, affirm that with me. I honor the wisdom of those who came before me. I honor the wisdom of those who came before me. I am the answer to my ancestors' prayer. I am the answered prayer of my ancestors. I am the answered prayer of my ancestors. I walk with divine guidance. I walk with divine guidance, protection, and strength. I walk with divine guidance, protection, and strength. I awaken to my purpose. I awaken to my purpose and I rise with the power of my bloodline. Amen and Ashe. Now, if you believe that, I want you to put in the comment section, I rise with my ancestors. Even if you're watching the replay, I want you to put that in the comment section. I rise with my ancestors. 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 Put that in the comment section. I rise with my ancestors. Everybody on the live, even if you're watching the replay, put that in the comment section. I rise with my ancestors. You don't rise alone. You don't walk alone. You rise with your ancestors. Beloved, I want to encourage you to return to your ancestral consciousness. I'm encouraging each and every one of you today, even those that are watching the replay, to return to your ancestral consciousness. The age that we're living in the age of Aquarius, the age of awakening, the age we're living in is right now, is not random. We're not living in a random age. This is the age of ancestral return. The age we're living in is the age of ancestral return, where the Divine Mother is calling all of us to return back to our roots. It is the age of ancestral return. Prophecies spoke of a time when the children of the stolen ones, the scattered ones, the oppressed ones would awaken. And not just reclaim land, but reclaim their memory, reclaim their spirit, reclaim their power. And this is their time. Beloved, you may not understand why you feel a pull to this type of live or this type of teaching or spiritual awakening or conscious teachings. You may not understand why you're starting to look outside of the box, look outside of organized religion for deeper truth. You may not understand why you feel the call to something deeper, something more expansive. You may not understand what the call is, but it's because you're called that you have this feeling. This is why you're awakening. Because the blood remembers. Your memory you may have forgotten, but your blood that runs through your vein, the blood of your ancestors in you, that power that flows to you, remembers who you are and what your lineage is and what you are and called to be. And we are called to return. We were stolen of the stolen ones. We were of the scattered ones. We were of the oppressed ones. But now the prophecy is unfolding that we will awaken. That we would not just reclaim our land, but our memory, reclaim our spirit, our honor, reclaim our power and our ancestral consciousness and wisdom. The matriarchs are returning. I've been teaching that since this year come through. The rising of the matriarch, the return of the matriarch. The ancestors are rising in us every day, every moment. That people are awakening one mind at a time. The ancestors are rising in us. That boldness, that tenacity, that fierce spirit not to give in and give up. It's rising. In the new world, beloved, the world of divine balance, of healing, and of unity is being birthed right now through us. Never forget it. You are a part of a revolution, of a grand awakening happening in the earth. You are a part and parcel of that. You are a part of a greater grand scheme of what's happening in the universe. You are part of that. And I encourage you to do your part, to be a part of the great awakening that's happening. And so I encourage each and every one of you that are on the live today, and those that will watch the replay. Today I challenge you to speak their names, speak your ancestors' name, to honor their wisdom, to heal the wounds they carried that they could not heal themselves, and to rise with power, the power they passed down to you through your bloodline. Because the divine feminine, the divine masculine, the wisdom of the ancients, they all live inside of you. Beloved, you are the altar in motion. You are the temple in manifestation. You are the living continuation of a sacred, unstoppable lineage. That's what you have to remember. And beloved, now is the time. Now is your time. Greetings, Eric Morris Clark. Thank you for joining. Now is your time to awaken and carry the torch forward. Your ancestors took it as further as they could. Now it's time for you to take the torch and go on further in the future into victory. And if this message, spiritual conscious awakening teaching today, if this spiritual virtual session has blessed you today, have awakened something in you, have stirred your soul and your spirit, I want you to support this movement. I want you to share the live. And those who may have just jumped on and we're coming to an end, you can go to YouTube shortly after this session is over and you can watch the replay. I want you to share the live, comment, and sow into this work of awakening, because together we rise and together we reclaim our sacred legacy. So if you've been blessed today by the words that have been spoken in this session and you would like to support us and support this platform so that we can continue to expand our reach, we invite you to do so, to give a financial contribution. You can do it through Cash App. It's pinned in the bio. I think it's in the caption on the live on TikTok. And it's on the flyers on my page, both on YouTube and TikTok. But it is Cash App. It is the $ capital VSY, lowercase ISRAEL 2021. Again, for those that would like to give a financial contribution to support this platform, you can do so through Cash App. That is $ capital VSY, lowercase ISRAEL 2021. I'm going to say it one more time because I know sometimes people say I speak fast. So I'll say it one more time. It's Cash App, $ capital VSY, lowercase ISRAEL. That is my first initials, VS, and my last name, which is a capital Y, lowercase ISRAEL, Veronica Yisrael. So 2021. So we thank you so very much for all that you do and all your support. And those that say, well, I don't have Cash App, but I do Zelle, you can reach out to us, inbox us, and we will get you the information you need for Zelle. And also for those who would like a spiritual consultation, you would like a one-on-one session, all of those things, or you would like spiritual advice, if you need some help working through on your spiritual journey, if you are looking for spiritual understanding or enlightenment or prophetic words to help guide your life, spiritual coaching, you can book a session with us. Just reach out to us on all platforms, and we will get you the information that you need and help you to book a session with us. Also, if you've been looking for a spiritual community, if you've been looking for a virtual community to call home, to have a spiritual leader, spiritual advisor, community that believes in spiritual awakening, expanding consciousness, believing moving beyond the walls of indoctrination and expandedness, and if you're looking for a place to call home to be able to experience spirituality in a different light, you've left the church, you've left organized religion, colonization, and you are looking to break free from the prisons that we've been placed in and do your programming, rewire yourself. I invite you to join and be a community member of the Soul Awakening Sanctuary movement. This is more than a conversation, it's a movement, and we are building this community, and I invite you to come with us and build this new world together. You can reach out to us on all platforms, and we'll give you the information that you need to be able to join this community. And we will let you know of all the complimentary things that you get as being a full-fledged community member, and the discounted things that you have access to as well, and all of those things that you have access to as being a community member. So think about it. If this is, you want to hear more about this in depth and what we're teaching and be a part of this community, reach out to us. You can follow us on all platforms at Chief Apostle Veronica Yisrael. Again, that's at Chief Apostle Veronica Yisrael. We're on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. But all of our home base now is YouTube. So all of our content, our revelations, our videos, our podcasts, and our live stream sessions all can be found on YouTube. It is the mothership for us now, because we used to go live on Facebook and TikTok, but now we've switched it around and we'll go live on TikTok and YouTube. But as you know, on Facebook, they, after 30 days now, with their new setting, they delete the lives. And on TikTok, after the live's over, you don't see it no more. So YouTube is our home base. So anytime, any day you miss the live, because we normally come on by 12 noon, and around that time, between 11 and 12, we come on normally by 12 noon. And if you missed us, you can definitely go over to YouTube to be able to watch the replay, because normally by the next day it's post it up, because it takes a little while on YouTube to post the live because it's running now. But once we end, it takes a couple of hours. Sometimes it doesn't pop up to the next day that you can watch the replay, but it will be there by the next day. So we love all of you, and we pray the divine's blessings upon you, and we pray that you will walk into your true power, that you will walk in to your true divine essence of who you truly are. So I'm going to give you this closing affirmation before we close our session today. And I want you to repeat after me. I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. I rise in their power. I heal what they could not. I am the love they prayed for. I am sacred. I am powerful. I am free. I'm going to say it one more time. You can repeat it after me. Affirm this with me in this truth of who you are. Say, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. I rise in their power. I heal what they could not. I live the love they prayed for. I am the love they prayed for. I am sacred. I am divine. I am powerful. I am free. And so it is, and so shall it be, and it cannot be otherwise. Amen and Ashe. So mote it be. Blessed be. May the wisdom of your bloodline cover you, guide you, and empower you. May you remember that you are never alone. And may you rise in the boldly spirit. May you rise boldly in the spirit of the ancients. May you rise in power as your ancestors rose to the occasion, knowing that you're never alone, that they always walk with you and guide you. And so it is, so shall it be. It cannot be otherwise. Amen and Ashe. Peace be with you all. Remember, you are powerful, you are creative. You are the epitome of the divine consciousness that created the universe. You are God in flesh, having a human experience. And never let anyone, any ideology, any philosophy, or any dogma or indoctrination, or anyone's negative opinion cause you to think otherwise. Because it's not what they call you, it's what you choose to answer to. And beloved, I implore you, I encourage you, I admonish you, and I push you and remind you to make them call you by your name, because you are great. You are worthy of all honor, dignity that's due to you, because you're great. You're destined for greatness. Your name is great. Greatness is on the inside of you, and you will do great exploits in the earth realm. Why? Because you are a co-creator with the divine. And everybody around you know you're great, whether they admit it or not. The question is, can you admit and affirm that truth of who you are for yourself and walk it out every day? So know that I love you. Know that the presence of the God in me, presence of the divine in me, loves the God and presence of the divine in you. Keep rising, keep elevating, keep expanding your consciousness, and keep elevating and evolving. Never become stagnated. Until next time, until tomorrow, around 12 noon, we'll see you. Peace be unto you. Thank you all for joining. Love you all. See you next time.